everybody. Welcome to this latest episode of ACT UP, which stands for April's Conversation Time. My name is April Joy Pimo. I am this year's political coordinator of APSA, and today we're going to be talking about ABGs and ABBs, and I have two wonderful guests from other orgs at SDSU. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Julian. I am the vice chairperson for SDSU's Andres Bonifacio Samahan. My pronouns are either he, they.
Hello, my name is Minh Pham I'm the vice president of the Vietnamese Student Association, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
And I forgot to say it, but my pronouns are she, her, hers, in case y'all were not able to see. But okay, so let's just get into it. So the three of us, we're all AAPI individuals, right? We know this whole idea of like ABGs, ABBs. ABG, for those of you who don't know, stands for like the idea of an Asian baby girl. These type of people, they're stereotypes that commonly go to like boba shops, car meets. They love luxury bags, supposedly. Have a taste for traveling, luxury, and clubbing and stuff like that. Total like party person kind of vibes. Same thing with ABBs, which are like Asian baby boy or Asian bad boy. There's this idea that they just go out to party, but there is also like a dark side to it. Like there's this sense of like, oh, nobody tells you that like ABGs and ABBs, like sometimes like there's this idea that like how do I put this delicately? That they're just there to party, but there's no like substance to them. And also that a lot of times there can be like elements of like racism within the community that a lot of people don't want to talk about. So what I wanted to ask y'all is, have you ever been accused of being an ABB by somebody who didn't know you? Like if they just looked at you point blank and they were like, oh, you look like one. And if you did, how did that make you feel? Either one of you can go first.
For me, like, there aren't really like many instances where they like thought I was an ABB, because this term like wasn't very common in my high school, so like they didn't know what it was. So that's for one. And like if I ever was called an ABB, it was like
in like a joking manner, maybe.
It was like it's like a joke between like my friends, just because of like the image that like an ABB holds, because they're like, oh, ABBs they wear the red flannels, or like the even just like the denim jacket with like
with the beanies.
With the beanies, or
guest shirts. Oh my god,
guest shirts. Like me, I really like to wear guests, so that's why they're like, oh, you're like a Kevin Nguyen, or like
the Kevin Nguyen.
or
oh,
if you have
no.
like a chain, and like I recently had a perm, so then they're like, oh my god, you're really far deep in the Kevin Nguyen look now.
Yeah.
But like nothing like too like um like
nothing that really made you feel like,
yeah,
this is not me.
Yeah, it was always like a joke.
What about you, Juju?
I agree with Min's sentiment that what's it called? ABB ABG didn't really start getting like really big until college for me. The only times I'd figure that out were like Fung Bros, where they talked about like the older versions of ABB and ABG, where like the ABG is like import model, like again with the luxury cars, but with the dragon tattoo and the gangster boyfriend. Like these were like older stereotypes that transitioned now.
Yeah, like Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, kind of. And I don't know. I think I've been called that. Like I think they're just like offhand like comments like, oh, you could be like an ABB, because when I used to have like a mid part or like longer hair, I also like dyed my hair, plus like the dancing. I like EDM. What's it called? I drive a Civic, like the rimmed glasses. Yeah, I know, and
Hitting every check mark on the
I
ABG
know,
pack.
but it doesn't, and the fanny pack too. Oh, gosh, but I don't think it phases me that much anymore. Just or at all, really, just because I know who I am. So plus I don't really have the budget for guest shirts and fluffy denim jackets, you know, like I'm I know myself enough to know that like while I check off some of those boxes, just that doesn't indicate like who I am and like what kind of label you could put on me, because I've always felt different, you know.
Oh, he said he's built different. Yeah, I think for me, I think maybe my experience with this is a little bit different than both of y'all, because I went to like very predominantly Asian schools growing up. Like I went to school in National City. I went to high school in Chula Vista, and a lot of the people around me were Asian. A lot of them were Filipino. And so that was like something that I always kind of knew about. But it's very funny because as I went to college, SDSU has this reputation of being a party school. Um, and in my personal experience, it's not so much like a party school. Like I think we get like a bad rap for it. Just because like SDSU, like it's somewhere like you can have fun, but you can also like get a good education. And I think a lot of people tend to overlook that. Um, Especially like in our area, because like, you know, it's the local school, it's the state school, and you know, a lot of people are just like, oh, I can, that's like my safety to a lot of people. And to me that was the case. So when I went here, you know, a lot of people from like an outsider perspective, people who didn't know me in high school, once they like people who met me in college were like, oh, you seem like an ABG. They're like, you wear the hoop earrings, you know, have a very specific way of talking. They're like, oh, you're loud. There's this idea of like, oh, you're ratchet. um a lot of people have told me that, and I at a certain point, like, I did feel very uncomfortable by it, because I was like, I was never like that. I might be loud, I might have a very outspoken personality, but like I think that there's nuance to it. And when people try to impose this idea of like who you are onto you, that like, oh, because you go to like a quote unquote party school, you go somewhere that is just like fun, it's very difficult to come to terms with. Like you're like, oh, maybe I am, I don't know, you start to question things a little bit, at least in my opinion. But all three of us being, you know, board members of API cultural orgs on campus, there is a certain reputation that a lot of people have about like cultural orgs in particular, saying that we're only really here for like the social aspect, and we don't really care a whole lot about our culture or something, or that we're just here to have, you know, fun. And while that is like one aspect of it, I think that there is value to it. But how do y'all feel about like the optics of like how people view your orgs in particular?
I could say something because I know that AB Samahan has had a big um our name gets thrown around a lot, definitely as an org with a lot of that's structured around socialness, I guess. We have four pillars, all encompassed by culture: political, social, community, and academic. But um, growing with Samahan ever since I was in high school, because I would go to their high school conferences. Like I guess the social perception has just been a lot of like the social pillar, and we still get that sentiment today. I'm sure, 'cause even when we were still in person, I remember on the Daily Kolwala, there was one thing about how Samahan was really cliquey, and I knew that didn't really sit right with me. And I can honestly say that Samahan is trying to push out of that social that social prioritization. Like we've been doing a lot more in terms of community, political and cultural like involvement. And I think that when people say these things, it's kind of invalidating to our cause of trying to bring people to learn about the culture. FCN is really enlightening for a lot of people who participate. And the fact that Samahan's just being thrown around as, oh, it's just a social org. Like it's like I know where they're coming from, but it's still, I think,
it's not the whole
invalid.
story.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They're shoehorning us, and I think that's unfair, especially if you're not gonna want to look inside and you're just your whole perception throughout like college or however. If you're not gonna join and see what else is on the other side, then I think that just comes off as ignorance.
Min, you have any thoughts?
For VSA, we haven't had like a lot of spotlight with like say the koala, because for VSA we're generally one of the smaller orgs. We're definitely like growing in the past 2 years, but we're definitely like a lot smaller than like AB Samahan and APSA. So we don't really have like we don't really grab as much of that attention. But it's definitely like something we have to watch for as we grow. Like we are like a social org, so we will like hang out a lot, and but really like the goal is to spread Vietnamese culture, and then like bring more people into the Vietnamese community.
I totally understand that, because especially like with what Juju said about the whole like people are, you know, hesitant to like look into these orgs because of how people characterize them from like the outside. You know, they're always like, oh, you're gonna join a line and all they're gonna want to do is like hang out and like go to like boba places with you, or like take you out for like karaoke or something, right? But like you know, that's why I was like hesitant at first to join any cultural orgs at SDSU. I didn't join any orgs freshman year because I was like, oh, there's a whole lot of people who are like from my high school and people that I know that like I was like, I don't know if I would fit in with them, because of that whole idea of like, oh, it's like a like people there like they want to party, they're, you know, cliquey or something, they're closed off. So that's why I didn't join any orgs at first. But then, you know, actually coming into this, I've realized that there are you'll find people who care about you, who give you that sense of belonging, that sense of community. And I think that that was very important to me because, especially as a non-STEM major at SDSU, I would go to classes and I'd look out and I would see maybe one or two other people that looked like me. I'd be in a comm lecture of like 200 people, and I look around the room. There was maybe 3 other Asians there, all of them female, and you know we're all spread apart. And so it's very difficult to find that sense of belonging in a place that um, is not really like built for that. You know, like college is very hard. It's very hard to make friends and build relationships with other people. And so when you're afraid of like being boxed in by these like stereotypes, you tend to shy away from that and you want to like close yourself off. um but yeah, that's why like I was very like I didn't want to join Samahan until like somebody approached me, and she kept like Vanessa, my ate, she kept like Vanessa and Joelle, actually they both kept prodding me. They were like, you should join Samahan, we'll pick you up. And you know what, I did get picked up. I got picked up by both of them. And I'm really glad that they did that, because it kind of changed my perspective on AB Samahan a little bit. At first it was like APSA that I joined, which, you know, that's why I'm a board member here. But it's just like it's a different experience once you actually get into it, and you don't realize that prior to like actually being in college, because you know it's very lonely once you actually get here, and then you realize, oh, I kind of need this. I need something to make me feel like I belong here. Um, but yeah, I think this also ties in a little bit with like the model minority myth. You know how like especially because I know me and Juju were not STEM majors. You know, so there is this tendency to be like, well, if you're not STEM, like, are you just there to party? You go to like SDSU, like, you haven't been corrupted by like organizations? Like I've gotten that a couple times. People have been like, you're a board member of a cultural org, but you haven't you're not like a party goer or something. And I'm just like, nope, there's a lot
Excuse
of
me?
normal people here.
What? No?
I've gotten a lot of that. Like
Wow.
I've gotten that from like people like, not to name names or anything, but like I've gotten it from like people who go to UCSD, and they'll be like, you go to SDSU, you're in a cultural org, you look like that, and you're telling me that you're not an ABG? And I was like, yeah, pretty much. Like, contrary to popular belief, there's a lot of people here who, you know, are both very invested in their studies and still have the time and energy to want to like bring something to their community, you know? But Juju, how do you feel about like the whole, you know, I'm not a STEM major, but like I still have other, like there's other sides to me kind of deal?
First off, I just want to say that's kind of disrespectful to you. Just when you said and you look like that, I'm like, okay, that's some kind of disrespect right there. But anyway, to your question, so I'm a film major, and I'm literally the only Filipino American in my classes. I'm pretty sure this semester, but I don't know. It's I joined Samahan, or I once I started getting invested into Samahan, and um I saw, or I wanted to like make a difference, and
Mhm.
I wanted to be more involved. You know, there's, you know, being a kuya and being an FCN board and everything like that, but they had a position. It was political affairs coordinator, and I just remember like I used to be in your place like for Samahan last year, but um, I don't know. I found something that I invest myself in on my free time. You know, I watch the news. I watch a lot of political satire and commentary, late night stuff, and I thought, you know, um, maybe I could help, uh, like our general body members start those conversations on their own without me. I thought I could help do that rather than being very lectury and preachy. You know, I would resort to using like Patriot Act and all these
Oh,
other
I love Patriot
yeah,
Act.
late night or last week tonight, sorry.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, um it all helped them to start thinking not just about like our identity and decolonizing and other stuff, because frankly my last name's Spanish,
Mhm.
and others, and just learning about the world around them. And then we got Zoom bombed, and then that really kick-started the political momentum, and we started, you know, advocating for Black Lives Matter. We're doing stuff for our Filipino American community here. I don't know. I think it doesn't, like, whether you're in humanities or STEM, like there's something there. You just have to look for it, I think.
Mhm. And then Min, you're an engineering major. Um did you ever feel compelled to like try to fit into any boxes because of like where you were or like the positions you held?
For me, I'm fortunate enough not to like have anyone come up to me and say like, "Oh, like, why are you here if you're like, yeah." Because since I am STEM major, like, I'm not sure if it's because I'm a STEM major that I haven't encountered anything.
Mhm.
But for me, like, for me personally, I believe that like should do like whatever I want to do. So it doesn't matter what other people think. Like I'm a computer engineering major because I want to be in computer engineering, not because like someone said, "Oh, you have to be computer engineering or you have to be in like a medical field or something." Um, I know my parents are like that, and like I know like if I were to be any other major, then I would have to like settle things with them. But fortunately, like I am a computer engineering major, so I haven't had to like deal with that. But I do like see other like all my friends. Like I'm one of the only computer engineering majors I know, and then I know like a couple more engineering majors, but the majority of my friends are all in like business or psychology or like criminal justice. So I do like see what their perspective is too.
Hmm. I think that's really, fortunate. A lot of like, I feel like, at least in my position, I'm really glad that like I'm secure with like my major and how I am. But there are times where I'm just like, I don't know. A lot of people, they have like very biased perceptions just based off of like how I look or how my social media looks, and I'm like, that's not the whole story, you know. And going off onto like social media, I wanted to ask y'all, because with with the whole fact that like we're online, right? Everything's, through Zoom. We've had to like resort to using social media as a means of communication between like everybody, right? And there has been this uptick, especially now with like the current like anti-Asian hate crimes going on, of like social media influencers, like, API individuals who are willing to use their like platforms to speak out on these things. But there are also those who are like really just there to like push the whole like ABG ABB agenda and be like, oh yeah, when you join a new org and all they want to do is like party, or like put a finger down kind of thing, right? And like we do it for jokes, right? Like, but I feel like sometimes like people who don't want to join our orgs or who don't want to like take the time to look into it, I feel like sometimes they take that to heart, you know? And especially like, I don't like, are y'all on subtle Asian traits? I know Min is, I think. But like the memes, sometimes they get a little problematic there. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should be laughing at this, because, it kind of, on one side it is a caricature or caricature. But like on the other side, there's just like people who actually believe those things. So I just wanted to know like how y'all felt about the shifting media landscape, and you know how that has portrayed us as like Gen Z APIs.
Okay. Well, oh, personally, I'm not on like any of the subtle Asian traits, or like I stopped following like Hella Basa or anything like that.
You know
Like
what?
all
Props to you. That's good for your
yeah.
mental health.
No, honestly, I feel like because I'm trying to invest into like deeper issues, not just like anti-Asian sentiment, but also imperialism, decolonization, whatever, And so I feel like these these pages, I want to. I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but I'm gonna just say it anyway. Just like the Filibahai and like other like the Filipino like TikTok
Oh, like
houses.
Philo House.
Philo House, no, not for me. Like when stuff started happening, like with the Zoom bombing, and then even with these, do you think they're saying anything? They're not.
Yeah.
Like I understand a place of wanting to share this, like these
Share your culture with
these
the world.
diasporic struggles, because like Filipinos in New York City will experience the same things in like Seattle or LA, but there's other, I feel, more pressing issues that you can deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's why I'm a little concerned for like younger who are growing up on like Yubo and like all these other sorts
I
of
didn't even know
things.
what Yubo was, or like I didn't really fully know what Yubo was until the other day when like I was talking to
Bro.
Min
Mhm.
on like a Discord, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm on Yubo," and I was like, "What the heck is Yubo?"
Bro,
Like
on
I keep seeing the TikTok ads for it, and then I'm like, I don't get this.
yeah,
Like,
no. I don't know. It's just like kind of trite, kind of.
mhm.
But I'm sorry, I went on a little rant there. What was the question again?
How do you feel about like how social media influencers, particularly like AAPIs, you know, like ones that are our age, how do you feel about the way that they've portrayed people like us? You know, how has that changed? Um,
um, the ones that are, advocate the ones I follow on TikTok that are advocating for AAPI stuff, that's like the stuff I've talked about, understanding like the systemic racism, colonialism, all of these other underlying factors that create this anti-Asian sentiment. I think they're doing fine. They're doing great, you know.
mhm,
But when it comes to perpetuating this ABB ABG culture, like you need to stop. I think
yeah.
you got to slow your roll there and just there's other pressing issues out there that we need to talk about, by and also by calling out, like still talking about orgs and how they're really like ignorant of the culture. That's just
Hmm.
trying to divide us, and
Yeah.
that's really not what we need at the moment. So cultural orgs are one of the least, are at the bottom of the things that you should be talking about in terms of Asian American discourse, in my opinion.
Interesting. Min, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so sorry, hold on. Okay, so sorry, I got distracted too. What was
Oh, we were talking about like AAPI, like Gen Z
okay?
TikTokers and like
Yeah, yeah.
content creators and how they've characterized people like us.
So I agree with Juju. Like, um, Asian American orgs, API orgs, they're definitely like not a priority to be talked about because I think just the term of like ABG ABB has been like so generalized that it's easy
It gets
to
thrown around a lot.
it gets thrown around a lot. So then like it's really like hard to discern the difference between like someone who just likes to like go to raves or someone who likes to wear their red flannel, um uh and like an actual ABG or ABB. So then like in those cultural orgs, there's like more likely than not there are people who like to go to raves, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're involved in like that ABG ABB kind of like culture. That's why it's like been thrown around so much that it's easy to categorize anyone that goes like to like those concerts or any like rave events. It's easy to categorize them as like an ABG or an ABB. So then yeah, so it's definitely like not worth talking about in during this time because like there's just like no way to tell. Like there's no point like nitpicking if like people are actually ABGs or ABBs within the cultural orgs. There's more like pressing matters like the stuff on the news right now.
I think one thing that I would like to, you know, clarify is that like there's nothing inherently wrong with, you know, going to raves or anything. Like I know plenty of people who, you know, go to carmies, go to raves, you know, work at boba shops. Juju, I'm looking at you. Um and like there's nothing really like wrong with that, you know, just because like at, you know, from the outside you're like, "Oh, you tick all of these boxes," right? Just because that happens to be the case, it doesn't mean that, you know, that they internalize these, you know, these stereotypes of like people from our generation. um One of the ideas is that like, you know, ABGs and ABB, or yeah, ABGs and ABBs tend to be like, they're like, oh, like underlying racism within them. And I think it's very, you know, problematic to assume that like people who look a certain way are going to be like anti-black. And I'm like, that's not, you know, like maybe that occurs in some people, and you'll see like other like parts of you know, you'll see other sides to people, but like that doesn't mean that, you know, just because someone looks a certain way, or you know, like you catch like a you catch a guy that like wears Guess and has the like the yellow beanie on with a jewel and like some boba, right? That doesn't mean that he's an ABB that is like anti-black and is like, oh, like I'm gonna throw around the N-word like it's like there's no tomorrow. And I'm like, it's very hard to try and like break free from these, because it's become very much like a cartoon that like we use. And you know, it's been so standardized that we have names for it. Like we call people like, oh, there's a Kevin Wynn here, there's a Tiffany Lou, there's a Josh Dela Cruz. And I'm just like, it, yes, to a certain extent, but that doesn't mean that all of these people are the same. You know, their individuality matters. And I think that, you know, especially like with APIs, there is a tendency to like lump us all in together and be like, all of you are the same. But I think that, you know, it's just difficult to try and convince other people of that, you know?
Yeah, one thing that like I really it's really unfortunate because like that the term is tied to like an appearance. So
Mm-hmm.
then like in an ABB's example, like now people like whenever people wear a red flannel, then they'll be categorized as like an ABB. So then
Well, he
like
got
they
the
don't,
red flag.
yeah, like they don't even want to wear the red flannel anymore, or like they can't wear the yellow beanie, they can't wear like a gold chain, and they're just like articles of clothing. But like when they wear it outside, people are like, oh my gosh, it's an ABB. Yeah, like people can't get a perm or without being categorized as Kevin Nguyen when they go outside. And then like the first thing, like generally like with this stereotype, the first thing you think, like people generally think of when they see an Asian with like curled hair is that they're like an ABB. And obviously like that has nothing to do with it. Like maybe they just wanted to go for a new look, but now they
Yeah.
can't even go for the new look without people thinking like, oh, it's an ABB. You gotta stay away from those kind of people.
I think like, and like the things that we're talking about, it's very much like surface level, like maybe even superficial to some of you. They're like, oh, what's the big deal? Like you can't wear this and you feel bad because people characterize you as this. And I'm like, well, like it is a problem, you know, like at least for me personally, like I would I would love it if people were like saw me for who I was, you know? I would love it if people looked at me and weren't like, she's loud and ratchet. You know what I mean? Like I I think that there it's become very normalized to just attribute this look onto people and then to just move on without any second thoughts. And like I've been guilty of that before, you know, like there have been times where I've been like, I don't know about this person. They seem kind of judgy and mean and scary, so I'm just never gonna talk to them. Um, and there is that idea with like, especially with like Asian girls. A lot of people are like, oh, they're so mean, and there was like whole TikTok trends about like Asian girls having like the mean I don't in Mean Girls, y'all have seen they're like the cool Asians, right? That I think is what people characterize as like the typical like ABG ABB. Do you remember that or no?
I actually have not seen Mean Girls,
Oh my
so
gosh.
I shouldn't be answering this question.
No, okay. Well, there's like a scene in the movie where they talk about like the different Asians, right? And there was there was like there's a scene in where they're talking about the cafeteria and they pan from they're like, here's the nerdy Asians and then the cool Asians. And I'm like, that kind of very succinctly explains like where we are as like a culture. And I feel like that movie was made in like the early 2000s, and I feel like we still haven't moved past that idea that there's like it's just like two sides of the same coin kind of deal. But yeah, do you feel like there's anything that we can do like as individuals to try and like break free from these stereotypes? Like, I know that it sounds kind of very like base, but I just like, what advice would you have to people who are like struggling with like trying to fit in and who are interested in joining a cultural org but are afraid to because of like how it might seem?
I think for people, for if you like wanted to join a cultural org, if you're like even interested in, you should. It's very easy to join. It's as easy to leave as it is to join. So if you go into the org and you like for some reason you don't like maybe
If you
it's
don't
not for
vibe with
you.
it,
Yeah, it's not for you. You can always just leave. But like you'll never know how the org what the org is like if you never like
try.
join the org. Yeah. So um I know like there are a lot of people like one of my little in VSA, she has a lot of friends that want to join VSA because like she talks about VSA with all of them, but they're not Vietnamese. They're actually not even Asian at all. And they're like interested. And of course, we'll like welcome them. It's just like, and just because we're labeled as the Vietnamese Student Association doesn't mean you have to be Vietnamese to join. Anyone can join. And like if they join and they like it there, then they could always stay. But if they don't, then you could always just like not attend any more events. So like even if you are interested, like just join. Like the worst thing, like there really isn't a worst thing that can happen. Like the worst thing that can happen is you don't like it and you can just leave.
That's true. I like how you mentioned you know, people who aren't API identifying like wanting to join orgs, because like I think that a lot of people, you know, are indeed like interested, right? Um and I think that's like one of the parts that I like about APSA. Like there's a lot of people who aren't like API that join APSA or like come to our GBMs. And like, you know, we even have like a board member who's like literally not Asian at all, John Fox. And like I think I think that's fine. I think that's great. I think it's good to show that there are people who appreciate our culture, um, and you know are willing to be allies for us. Yeah. Juju, any thoughts on people who might want to join AB Samahan but are afraid?
I think a part of my answer kind of falls into what Min already covered. You
Mm-hmm.
know, join it. There's so much to do. We are like as just speaking as for our org and not for like all Philem orgs in general. There's so
Mm-hmm.
much you can do in terms of like events and participation. Whether you want to like prioritize like academics or doing stuff around the culture with like our Filipino Culture Night, FCN. Um, let's see. I think one thing to also take away is that orgs are not a monolith.
Mm-hmm.
They are within these org. There are groups of people who have similar interests. Or sure, they're all they all have like similar interests in terms of culture, trying to find a home away from home. But you'll find people that are musicians. We have obviously we have our like STEM majors, but we also have our film majors. The people we have the ones who skate. We have the ones who like singing or dancing and do stuff outside of Samahan,
Mm-hmm.
where you can find other the orgs that they're a part of and doing those as well. So I think that you know um, finding finding your people in these orgs can also be really helpful in trying to find out what you like more. And again, if you're not that interested, you don't don't feel obligated to keep coming if you don't enjoy it. I think that's everything for me.
Yeah. I like what you said about the like finding your people within the org, because they also help you find out what you like. And I'm gonna be honest, like that's how it was for me in the beginning, because I think it was really funny for me, like going into like Asian orgs or like cultural orgs at SDSU. Before in high school, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't really like being Filipino. That's not really that important to me. But then in college, I was like, yes, that matters a lot. It matters a lot, my identity. And I think, Juju, you also like kind of understand this, especially because we were in the same Filipino class. At least with me, it was very important to me to make sure that I maintained that tie to my culture. But there were other things that I gained apart from just like my cultural identity. I also like met people who, liked K-pop and like K-dramas and animes and stuff. And I didn't like any of that before. Like I also didn't even really like listen to like Filipino music before, right? I never listened to like 88 Rising like before. I didn't do that before.
Yeah.
But like once I got into college, I was like, oh, there's all of these like people in the media that are like me, and there's these cool things and stuff that like helps build this sense of community that I wouldn't have gained and I wouldn't have found without joining APSA and AB Samahan. So yeah. Final thoughts. I think we've all kind of said it. Join an org, or at least like dip your feet in the water. Just like come out to a GBM, or go to like one of the auxiliaries or something if you're just curious. Reach out to a board member if you're really that scared. I promise you, board members are not as scary as we seem. We all just want you to come. We love having new members. And is there anything that y'all would like to plug regarding your orgs in the following weeks?
I just want to mention that that the beginning of the semester is not the only time to join the org too. Like you can join whenever you want. Like
I joined APSA like in the middle of my semester.
Yeah, like I know a lot of people like I get like from my friends, they're like, oh, my friend wants to join, but they missed the first GBM, so they're scared. Like I'm like, whatever, just come. Just like come through. Like it doesn't matter. Like there's some people that join like literally the last month of school, yeah, or like we had a 5th year join. He's like graduating this semester, and he signed up for like our NGM event as a little like yeah.
Hey, nice.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can really like join whenever you want. If you miss the first GBM, it's whatever, just come out and then come to the second GBM. Yeah, so
I just want to say, as long as you're willing to put in the work to want to make something of yourself or an org, like make something from this org, whatever org that may be at whatever school you go to, then I think what you will get out what you put into it, So if you want to like make something and you put in a lot of effort, then the fruit of your labors will pay off, And I think another thing too is that if you join, second semester of your first year, join whenever, I'm gonna keep it 2 Virgils. Sometimes there will be bubbles in your way, but they're not hard to break. You'll break them and it'll be great. It'll be a fun time. I joined Samahan my second semester of of my freshman year, and then the people that I met and the people that I've been on board with for like the past year or this year have been some of my really close friends, and they're like, we're close, you know. And these are people that, so you'll never know, really.
Don't
So,
knock it till
yeah.
you try it.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. So, final announcements. At least for me, y'all should check out APSAFTS, which will be in April, April 15th, if I'm correct. But I will put the info in the bio. Is there anything y'all would like to say about some certain events?
We have our Vietnamese culture night the day after, April 16th. It's gonna be streamed on Twitch, so if you're interested, come out.
And then before y'all's events, we have our Filipino culture night on April 10th. We'll have a lot more information in our Samahan Instagram, but
And
yes.
I can plug y'all's socials for the orgs down in the description. So yeah, this has been Act Up. I hope y'all enjoyed listening to me, Min, and Juju. Yeah, if you have meds, take your meds, drink water, take a rest if you need it. And yeah, just, take it easy, have fun. Hope you enjoyed, because we all gotta act up sometime. Okay, bye.